Flow Broadband and TV is packed with even more value as you get a free Samsung tablet, free installation, and 50% off your bill for 3 months when you sign up now. Yes, a free Samsung tablet. Power all you do at home with up to 100 megabits per second super fast broadband. Plus, stay HD entertained with Flow TV. Stream, share, and do more on your new free tablet, which will also keep you connected on the go with ease. Sign up at a Flow store today. Conditions apply.
Buying your medication is easy with City Drug Store's curbside pickup. WhatsApp our certified pharmacist at 662-8769 with your requests. For prescriptions, take a clear photograph and send for review. We will engage you in dialogue and then provide a quotation and link for payment. You can then pay via TDC's online payment portal. And once the transaction is complete, you'll be notified that your pickup is ready. Yes, it's that easy. Send your WhatsApp message to 662-8769 to order your medications today with City Drug Store's curbside pickup service.
When they start them there, we are top man, we take charge. Have no reaching now, we are shell down bars. Blast like a star with some gallopers. Overdo it, we take it too far. Take charge, take charge.
We are hot gal, we set the trend. Magnum we drink for the top man them. Wine with the style, no stop from spin. Hot blend, back bend, and take charge, take charge.
Magnum tonic wine, the real star them. Take charge, take charge. Must be 18 or older, drink responsibly.
Man, it's a beautiful Wednesday morning here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and you're listening to 1FM 98.9 for another edition of Voices. Today is Wednesday, June 16, 2021, and I am your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Let me say good morning to those of you who are listening via the radio, of course, those of you who have tuned in via our social media platforms, via our website at www.winmediaskn.com. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's edition of Voices. Now, over the past few days, there has been a lot of social media buzz, a lot of hype on social media. A lot of things has been going on. And of course, like every other young person in St. Kitts and Nevis, I have been paying attention. I've been looking on and, seeing what's really happening here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Of course, with regards to the COVID-19 developments, we're now seeing an outbreak here in St. Kitts and Nevis, which is something that I would say we should not be entirely surprised, because we knew it would have happened at a point in time. And of course, with the speeches made by Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris and Premier Mark Brantley, and social media was alive over these past few days. And so this morning I would like to facilitate a conversation with you members of the public with regards to the speeches that were made by Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris and Premier Brantley's speech. Now, some of the chatter I saw on Facebook suggests that the speech made by Premier Brantley was not legal or not constitutional meaning some of the measures that he announced, or they are claiming that, well, his speech went against what the Prime Minister announced. And so this morning I want to facilitate a discussion with you, members of the public. Of course, I'm going to open the phone lines at 11:30. I'm going to open the phone lines at 11:30, and you can call in and be a part of this discussion. I'm going to take a look at the Constitution of St. Christopher Nevis, where it speaks to Nevis having some power in terms of what's happening on the island of Nevis. And we're going to break it all down here this morning. Of course, I welcome your suggestion. I welcome your feedback. I welcome your opinion on the matter. And if you could give an explanation, a better explanation, of course, for members of the public, that would be helpful. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. You're listening to Voices on 1FM 98.9. I know these are quite uncertain times. Things have changed really fast over the past few days with regards to developments of the coronavirus here in our communities. We were once at a stage where we had little to no active cases of COVID-19. We were once at a stage where, even though we know the virus was still amongst us, we had that freedom of going out without having to worry too much about the coronavirus. Of course, people had really let their guard down, and people really thought that, well, there's no corona here, so I could go and do this and I can go and do that. And so people had stopped following the protocols. People had stopped wearing their masks, social distancing, all of these protocols that the health authorities say would keep us safe. And so people really let their guard down. Now we're in a situation of community spread, and the virus is spreading faster than I would say many of us expected. And the health officials, the health authorities are trying their very best to contain the spread of the virus. But as I've said before, they can't do it alone. They can't do it alone. Yes, we would want this virus to come under control. We would want everything to get back to normal. But we have to understand that we play a very important role in that happening. And so if we're not going to do what we have to do to keep ourselves safe, then of course the authorities would have to take a general approach in terms of a lockdown, in terms of a curfew, and these measures. I've said before, and I still believe it, that safeguarding yourself from COVID-19 is an individual and personal responsibility. But we have the situation where people are not looking at the issue like that. They're saying, well, if I am to contract COVID, it's the government's fault. If I am to get sick from COVID, it's the government's fault. It's the health authorities' fault. And people are not really understanding that protecting yourself from the virus is a personal and individual responsibility. And you know that these are the measures that you have to take to keep yourself safe. You know that these are the measures that you have to practice to make sure that you and your family is safe. But, we're human, we're people. We ignore and we refuse to follow the protocols. And so now we're seeing where the virus is getting out of control, and we can only hope that the health authorities within the next 2 weeks until the June 26th, we can only hope that they get this under control, because many of us are hurting. Many of us are hurting, and we would want to get back to normalcy, or a state of normalcy, or a level of normalcy, We want to get back there so that we could get back to, our regular business, especially people who own small businesses. Now, the Premier of Nevis addressed the residents and citizens of Nevis, or the residents of Nevis, on June 12. And he spoke, or rather gave an update regarding the COVID-19 situation on the island. And a number of measures were announced, a number of measures were taken because of then no community spread on the island. The Premier said all offices of the NIA shall remain open. Businesses shall remain open, as well as provided that all protocols as to mask wearing, physical distancing, and hand sanitizing are in place. All workers should report to work on time and wearing masks. However, for the next 14 days, businesses should encourage workers to work from home. Now, this was totally different to what the Prime Minister announced. The Prime Minister said all government offices, state-owned enterprises, statutory bodies will close. Businesses that can't have their employees work remotely shall close. And so it was a complete different situation between St. Kitts and Nevis. But before I continue, there is some justification. The Premier and his cabinet said they took that decision because then there were no community spread on the island. And so they felt as if to lock down the government offices, shut down the businesses, and take a similar approach like St. Kitts would have been difficult in light of no community spread being on the island. The other argument that came from people was that, well, while that makes sense to a certain extent, you have to remember there is frequent and constant travel between the two islands. And so even though, as I get to point number 2, where all ferries have voluntarily decided to suspend their services to St. Kitts. However, Westgate Agency has agreed to do a single round trip in the morning and one in the evening via Mark Twain, but restricted to only essential travelers. Water taxis will only do charters. So even though the movement between St. Kitts and Nevis was limited to only essential travelers, I believe essential travelers can contract COVID too. So hear me out. Essential travelers can contract COVID too. And so there is still a possibility of the virus getting into the communities here on Nevis. There was still a possibility. But I would not say that the Premier and the Nevis Island administration was encouraging people to let their guard down, because whilst making the announcement, whilst announcing those measures, he encouraged people to still follow the protocols, still wear your mask, and still do all of you have to do to keep yourself safe. Of course, while at the same time encouraging people to take the vaccine. And so while these measures were announced, they were still encouraging people, of course, to follow the protocols. If I may continue, he says all the other measures by the Prime Minister, that was announced by the Prime Minister, will be enforced. To be clear, the island of Nevis will have a curfew from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. for the next 2 weeks, as announced. Of course, no mass gatherings, beaches restricted to exercise only, all of that. The other announcement or measure that was, some people thought was extreme, was that people were still allowed to go to church, or people were still allowed to attend church on Nevis, and construction workers were still permitted to go to work. However, the Premier said with no cases or no community spread, there is only need for enhanced restrictions. But if cases do emerge, then stringent measures, including the option of a lockdown, might become necessary. And so the argument from the NIA was that, well, at that time we had no community spread on the island. At that time we had no community spread, and we felt that it would have been difficult for us to ask businesses at this very difficult time to close in light of there being no community spread on the island and things still being, you know, at a state of normalcy or a sense of normalcy. And so after that announcement was made, you saw a lot of chatter on Facebook in terms of whether that was legal or constitutional. Now, if I may make reference to the Constitution, which is Chapter 10, Section 106, it says responsibilities of administration, which is the Nevis Island administration. It says the administration shall have exclusive responsibility for the administration within the island of Nevis, in accordance with the provisions of any laws relevant of the following measures. So the NIA is responsible for airports and seaports, education, extraction and processing of minerals, fisheries, health and welfare, labor, land and buildings vested in the Crown and specifically appropriated to the use of the government. However, in subsection 2, it says, nothing in subsection 1 shall affect the exercise of any power vested by law in the Governor General or a minister, or empower the administration to take any action that is inconsistent with the general policy of the government as signified by the Prime Minister in a written communication to the Premier. So nothing in subsection 1 shall go against or be inconsistent with the general policy of the government, the federal administration. And so that is where it gets tricky. So yes, the NIA is responsible for health, and in this regard, COVID-19 is health. It falls under health, but it gets more interesting. It gets more interesting. As I continue, it says here that the Premier may give such general directions with the maintaining and securing of public safety and public order in the island of Nevis, as he or she may consider necessary, to the senior officer of the police force stationed on the island of Nevis. And subject to subsection 2, that officer shall comply with those general directions. Now it says, nothing in subsection 1 shall prevent or preclude, but prevent the Prime Minister from giving general directions with respect to the maintaining and securing of public safety and public order in St. Christopher and Nevis. And so, would we say that the measures announced by the Premier went against what the Prime Minister announced? Now, I sought some legal advice, and the argument that was being had is that whilst there is that part of the Constitution which says the Premier may give certain general directions with the maintaining of order, the measures announced by the Prime Minister at that time were backed by the statutory rules and orders. However, the measures announced by the Premier, there was no specification, or there was nothing in the SRO that spoke directly to Nevis. And so that legal advice I received was that the statements by the Premier has no regulations but the Prime Minister has. So, the statement by the Premier was just a statement because there was no SRO at that time to provide any legal backing or footing for the Premier. We're going to open the phone lines and we're going to begin taking some calls. I want to hear your opinion on this matter. What I also witnessed on social media was a lot of back and forth between our Kitishan and Nivision brothers and sisters. A lot of, I would say, confusion, division, where people were upset because of the measures, were upset because Nevis was allowed to continue business as normal, as usual. And they believe that that should not have been the case because it's one federation, it's one country. But the argument from the NIA and from people on Nevis was that, well, at that time we had no community spread. We had no community cases. So if we have no calls at this time, we're going to take a short break to say thank you to our sponsors. And when we come back, the phone lines are open. The numbers to call are 466-0989, 762 and 662. Call us today and let's have this conversation. Let's take this short break and we will be right back. Again, the numbers are 466-0989, 762 and 662. Let's take this short break.
Cool. Energize your goals with Lucozade. Get it cool. Look under the cap. Find the code. Win it. Thousands in prizes. iPhones and TVs. Or win 30 grand US dollars for your goals. That's goals.
For a chance to win $30,000 US dollars. Purchase any Lucozade Energy promo bottle. Look under the cap and find the code to win iPhones, TVs, and free Lucozade or $30,000 US dollars to energize your goals. See website, social media, or press for details. Lucozade, taste the energy.
Flow Broadband and TV is packed with even more value as you get a free Samsung tablet, free installation, and 50% off your bill for 3 months when you sign up now. Yes, a free Samsung tablet. Power all you do at home with up to 100 megabits per second super fast broadband. Plus, stay HD entertained with Flow TV. Stream, share, and do more on your new free tablet, which will also keep you connected on the go with ease. Sign up at a Flow store today. Conditions apply.
If you need insurance, our service is the best. Home motor insurance can give you more for less. Property insurance can save you a lot of stress. At TDC Insurance Company Limited, we care about your investment. Guarantee you peace of mind. The best team in the business. Guarantee you peace of mind. No other company will guarantee you peace of mind. Together we'll succeed and guarantee you peace of mind.
TDC Insurance Company Limited, where you get more coverage for less.
Welcome back to Voices and WinFM 98.9. We have our first call. Let's take this caller for this morning. Caller, good morning. You're here. Okay, we seem to have lost that call. Let me apologize for that. We seem to have lost that call. We're still taking calls. Call us at 466-0989-762 and 662. Call us today and be a part of this discussion. It's now 27 minutes past the hour of 11. We're taking your calls. Very interesting conversation we're having here this morning. Call us and be a part. We're live via our social media pages as well. We seem to have another caller on the line. Let us take this call. Caller, good morning. You're live on Voices. Okay, we seem to be having some technical difficulties with our callers at this time. So I'm going to continue while we get that issue or situation sorted out. Let me apologize for any inconvenience caused at this time. You're listening to Voices on 1FM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. And so the conversation, for those of you who just tuned in, is centered around the speeches that were made by Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris and Premier Mark Brantley. Also, part of the conversation was the fact that, or let me say, what I saw on social media, in the beginning, it was hilarious. I must say, many people were of the opinion that, well, I didn't really understand anything what the Prime Minister said, and people got confused because the word lockdown and curfew was used in the same speech or in the same sentence. And so it really confused people that, they're hearing it is a lockdown and then they heard that it's a curfew. So if you had only listened to the first, I would say, 5 minutes of the speech, and you had log off and run to social media, you automatically would have thought that it was a lockdown. But if you stayed listening, you would realize that it wasn't a lockdown, but it was just a curfew with lockdown-like measures. However, some people were of the opinion that the use of the word lockdown in that speech should not have been, because you really confused people. And I must admit, I too was confused in the beginning. What I saw, though, was that people started to do name calling because people didn't really understand what was being said. And we have to understand that it's not everybody's going to understand it at the same time. Sometimes you have to listen something over and over again to really get what the person is trying to say. And so that was the whole talk on Facebook. Whether we were in a lockdown or if we were in a curfew, and people didn't really understand that. Of course, the AG came and the AG explained that you are not under lockdown. You're just asked to stay at home from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. Stay in your house from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. That is what the government is asking us to do. And between 5 a.m. and 6 p.m., you are only to leave your house for essential movement. If you have to go to the hospital, if you have to go and be vaccinated, if you have to go to the bank to get some money from a loved one, if you have to go to the pharmacy to get medication for a loved one, you are only supposed to move if you have those essential runs to do. And so that is something that people didn't really understand in the beginning because of the word lockdown that was used in the first instance, when the Prime Minister said we're going to have a period of lockdown. But at the ending of it, people were able to understand, well, this is not a lockdown. This is just, tighter curfew measures, tighter restrictions, and this is what you're going to have to adhere to for the next 2 weeks in the first instance. The health authorities have said that they're confident that this would be different, or the situation would change in the next 2 weeks. But that too was a part of the discussion. I think what was the the most talked about was why did Nevis take that decision? And considering, of course, we are one country, many people felt that that should not have been the decision taken by the NIA because no, we have our first case in a very long time, and this case is a national with no travel history, and so I think it is safe to say community spread. Why I say it is community spread is because if you catch the virus here on the island and you have not left the island, where did you get the virus from? And so that is community spread. You don't know where you got it. You never left the country. You never left the federation. And so you're left to wonder, well, where did I get COVID from? Whether it came from St. Kitts or not. You brought the COVID here. It's just that you are the first reported case. You are the first person that the health authorities have found to be positive with the virus. And so we await further developments. Not that we are anticipating, but we understand the situation is very fragile. We understand the situation is very fragile, and we understand what could happen. We understand what could happen. What I would say, in the beginning, many of you who are listening before, I did not support a total lockdown between St. Kitts and Nevis. I did not support locking Nevis away from St. Kitts or vice versa. I did not support it because while I understand, yes, the situation is fragile in terms of people, catching COVID very easily, no matter how careful you are. I have said and will say again and will continue to say that we really need to understand that COVID is not going to leave us next week. So if we really think locking down the country and putting in place all of these measures, and then next week we're going to be fine. If we as a people, because I don't think the health authorities think that, they know, they very well understand the situation. But if we as a people are going to have that mentality that every time there is a new case of the virus, that every time there is some development with COVID-19, that the answer is to lock down the country, lock down the country, lock down the country, then we're not really ready to live with COVID. We're not ready to live with COVID. We're not ready to live with COVID. And so the response to that, lockdown, I disagree. While I understand, yes, there are some measures you have to take to control the spread because, bearing in mind we are a small population. We are a small population. If the virus is to really get out of control, here in St. Kitts and Nevis, then I'm not sure if we will be able to handle it because of our healthcare system. And if we are to end up in a situation where we have more cases than more beds, and that is something that we definitely don't want to have. But people really need to understand that, COVID is not going to leave us right now. And if you're going to take the approach that, well, let me be complacent, let me be ignorant, let me not follow the protocols, and then when I catch COVID, or when a friend of mine contracts the virus, or when the virus gets out of control, I'm going to blame the government. I'm going to blame the health authorities because they are the ones that mismanaged the pandemic. They are the ones who did not do a good job. That is what I'm going to do. That is the argument. That is the impression I am getting from the people. That is my humble opinion. Because we have to understand that it is us. We are the ones that are responsible for spreading the virus. We are. There's an explanation I heard from Dr. Wilkinson. He said, in order to, protect yourself from the virus, you have to act like everyone you come into contact with has COVID. Of course, not to scorn them, don't get me wrong, not to scorn them and to insist that they have it, but practice the protocols. It could be your best friend, it could be your neighbor, it could be a stranger. You know, you're not supposed to do the shaking of hands. You know, when you come too close, you wear your mask and whatever face shield that you would have. But if you're going to run up to everybody we see and hug them, if you're going to go to every party and mix and mingle with people, then, you know, that is where things are going to get different or get out of control. That is where things are really going to get out of control. And so you not following the protocols, you not doing what you're supposed to do, you are helping the virus to stay alive. You are helping the virus to spread. And so the less movement or the adherence to protocols, strict adherence, would put us in a better position. It would really put us in a better position. But we understand that not everyone would have that discipline, because during this pandemic, some people have been very serious with it. Some people have taken it very serious. Some people have said, well, I know this is what I have to do, so I am going to do it because I want to make sure I protect my family. I know I'm not supposed to be any mass gatherings. I am going to do what I have to do to protect my family. And that is what people have been doing. That is what people have been doing. But I say again, it's a personal responsibility, and it's really up to us what we want to do. But I just don't feel that locking down. So that is not something I was in support of, to lock away or to isolate Nevis from St. Kitts, as I think doing such, while the advantage or the positive would be to contain the spread of the virus. I was thinking to see, what would be the negative impacts. And so you lock down the country or you isolate St. Kitts or Nevis. You do that to contain the spread of the virus, which would be the advantage. That would be the advantage, But the disadvantage would be the long-term effects. It would be the long-term effects. But another argument is that, well, we're going to have to learn how to live with COVID, and that would be to understand that it is going to be a rough time ahead. And so if the business has to close for 2 weeks, then so be it. Let me apologize for those people that are trying to get in. We experienced a power outage earlier, and so that has messed up the system. So let me humbly apologize for that inconvenience. However, please, you're continuing to listen on FM 98.9. We are trying to get that situation fixed as soon as possible, but keep trying. You may be lucky by getting in. But let me apologize for that inconvenience that have been caused, and we're trying to get that situation sorted out as soon as possible. And so, yes, I wasn't in support of a lockdown or isolating, rather, St. Kitts from Nevis. I just believe that, the long-term impact of it would have been too much for us to handle. It would have been too much for us to handle. Some people were saying, well, if we had locked down or isolate Nevis before, then we wouldn't have gotten that positive case. But you cannot close off Nevis from St. Kitts entirely. You could do it to a certain extent, which is what they have done. And so they're saying no, only essential movement, only essential travelers is what is permitted. But I have said, and I'll say, essential travelers can contract the COVID too. And so with that restriction of only having essential movement, I just want Nivisions and Kittitians to understand that that does not mean that you should let your guard down. That does not mean that you should not continue to wear your mask and practice social distancing and do what you have to do, because there is still a crack in the ceiling. There is still a way for the virus to get into our communities. Some people have the opinion that the virus has always been here, but it is because of the testing. We have not been testing enough. And so the more you test, the more you realize, oh wait, this virus is in our communities. If you don't test, you won't know. On Leadership Matters last night, CMO Dr. Laws did say that, well, we are testing. They have 2 mobile units that are moving throughout the country to test people. Those are some of the measures that they have taken to identify any possible positive cases. We're going to take a break to say thank you to our sponsors, and we're really trying to get this issue fixed. Of course, for the next half of Voices, when we come back at 12:30, after we take the break at 12, we're going to try to get the situation sorted out as soon as possible. But let me just apologize for those of you that have been trying to call and have not been able to get in. I humbly apologize for that. Nevertheless, you're listening to WinFM 98.9. This is Voices. Today is Wednesday, June 16, 2021. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let us take the short break, and we will be right back. Of course, stay tuned to WinFM 98.9. Let's take this short break.
TDC Automotive is paying for you. Deposit? We're paying. 3-month installments? We're paying. Pay nothing for 3 months because we are paying. Take a moment, catch your breath, and roll out with ease. Save over $20,000 off your new Toyota Hiace because TDC Automotive is paying. Get your Toyota Hiace today. TDC Automotive, #1 for a reason. Terms and conditions apply.
Good morning, my little superheroes. Tell me, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
The power to read minds.
Super speed. Pew. The power to heal the sick.
Well, you can get smart, speed, and good health with the superhero trio from Hallieorange. Hallieorange has delicious omega-3 bursts, sugar-free multivitamin liquid, and flavored vitamin A, C, and D chewables to support a strong immune system, healthy bone development, and acute mental performance for superheroes like you. Part of the Hallieorange family.
Found the sound 98.9.
Flow Broadband and TV is packed with even more value as you get a free Samsung tablet, free installation, and 50% off your bill for 3 months when you sign up now. Yes, a free Samsung tablet. Power all you do at home with up to 100 megabits per second super fast broadband. Plus, stay HD entertained with Flow TV. Stream, share, and do more on your new free tablet, which will also keep you connected on the go with ease. Sign up at a Flow store today. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to Voices on WinFM 98.9. We are taking your calls I think the phone lines are now back up, so please call us at 466-0989. 762 and 662. Call us today and be a part of this discussion. Again, let me apologize for the inconvenience caused earlier where people were unable to get in. Call us and be a part of the discussion. For those of you who are just tuning in, call us at 466-0989, 762 and 662. We have a caller on the line. Let us take this first call for the morning.
Hey, good morning, Devon.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing?
Oh, you're giving God thanks, man. I'm listening to you. I said, Devon, go and drink some water. Anyway, as the song they say, if we never needed the Lord before, we sure we need him now. Let me start by saying, Nevis is not a colony of St. Kitts. Let me repeat it. Nevis is not a colony of St. Kitts. Now, do you have the Constitution that you read a while ago?
Pardon?
Do you have the Constitution you were reading a while ago, the section 1110 it is? What section you were reading about the powers of the Nevis Island Administration?
Yeah, 106.
106. Now you read a section there where the NIA has to be notified by something in writing. You recall reading that?
Yes, it says
read it
that
again, because I don't think some people understand it.
Let me read it again. So nothing in subsection 1, which subsection 1 says that the NIA has certain powers over like education and health. So it says nothing in section 1 shall empower the administration to take any action that is inconsistent with the general policy of the government as signified by the Prime Minister in a written communication to the Premier.
Thank you very much. Was there any?
Was there a written communication from the Premier to the Prime Minister?
No. It said from the Prime Minister to the Premier.
From the Prime Minister to the Premier?
We do see.
I don't think there was.
That's what I'm telling you. You know, sometimes, like a lawyer, right? Lawyer will tell you that. Anyway, now he did say, and I have some questions too, right? He did say that he informed the Prime Minister. What he did not say was what was the Prime Minister's response.
Right, that was it right there.
Because remember, according to the Constitution, the Prime Minister will have to send these things in writing to him. Now, coincidentally, which means it happened at the same time, that they are members of the cabinet. Were they present? Were they notified of the meeting? Is what we're talking about? Now, if you go to the situation in Nevis, did we have a lockdown when we had one? Did St. Kitts have any when we had one?
Wait, repeat that?
Was St. Kitts shut down when we had one positive case?
I don't think so, no.
All right, so why should Nevis shut down if they have one? We got to be logical, you know.
Yeah, I see your logic there.
Yeah, if they have one, we only, you see, when we started getting 10 and 20 and so we were open, you know. Nevis have one, and all the political, whatever come out of the woodwork. What I think they did, what I said was lacking was what was the Prime Minister's response. Now,
many people were asking for that. Yeah.
Because he said he notified him, he didn't go and then, oh, well, I do it, so I tell you I do it. And people need to know
the Prime Minister said, which I thought was very interesting, he said last night on Leadership Matters that he would have preferred if the state had taken the one policy. So he would have preferred that if they followed the same approach.
Right, but remember, according to the Constitution, they're not bound to.
Right.
I don't think some people know that, you know. The Nevis NIA has powers, you know.
But Miss Henry, you know what got me a bit upset? I'll say it. The attitude I saw from some Kittitians.
Without order. You see, You know, when ignorance talk, they make the most noise. I heard other DK and different people talking about it and so what Kitchens was saying. I mean, it sounds immature. If they had the Constitution, they would have seen what rights Nevis have and what rights Saint
They
have.
operated as if Nevis had no right and
read the thing
Nevis
again.
totally wrong.
No, they were acting like Nevis is a colony of Saint Kitts.
Yeah, and that was sad.
Not sad, it's ignorant, the ignorant. You know, Jamaican said they like to hear the ignorance.
But you know, Mr. Henry, as we're having this conversation,
now
there is
the federal government has power over defense. And what else?
Police.
The police
National security.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, the broader picture, national security.
And they have given Nevis certain powers. When the police station in Nevis, Premier has certain rights now. Before time, they used to have war under the Labour government. Then now, how I say, so you cannot go over there and just send over soldiers and send over. They have rights. So what I am saying, if we begin with the premise that the NIA have rights, the federal government have rights, I don't think that the Prime Minister intentionally went to say, well, shut down everybody. Sometimes you make a decision, right? Even you in your own personal life or on your job. It's a back of my say, well, I don't want nobody to come in the door before 8 o'clock. But you come down from Nevis on the boat, say 6 o'clock. So you must stand up outside the door until 8. You understand?
I'm listening, yes.
Sometimes afterthought, when you don't do the thing, you say, well, boy, you know, and when people come to reason, people in the mechanism sound like Brantley was fighting Harris. Foolishness. And this thing about, and let me tell you, you see that boat business? A lot of Kittians were planning to rush over to Nevis.
Yeah, that is very true.
And what they would do, look at the population of Nevis. St. Kitts has about 3 times the population of St. Kitts. Of Nevis. About 3 times, you know. Now, all of you rush over there with your corona. You rush over to give it to the division. What do you expect to happen? If we already reached 200 and something in St. Kitts, you could imagine, use the ratio, use your maths, because I was a mathematics teacher, you know, and statisticians and numbers always interest me. Use your numbers. It wouldn't even take a week to wipe out Nevis. They were ready to rush over without any regard for the division. Well, I running from corona. A lot of them who running from corona have not been vaccinated, you know. They refused. I'm not talking about people who have a legitimate reason. Well, corona in St. Kitts, I gone Nevis. Excuse me?
So now you bring the corona to Nevis.
Wipe it out. I mean, you see, sometimes you got to confront some people. They're making it a political issue, it's a health issue. And again, all right, everywhere shut down. So not in Nevis. So what are home doing? And the one case they have is linked. It was found by a contact trace from St. Kitts. The one in Nevis, you know, come from St. Kitts. It's the power of one. One person have St. Kitts where it is today. One. The power of one. One person bring it out of the hotel, and it have us going busy. So I don't understand how people, they're cussing one another. Divisions. My mother Jeffers, her father, Freeman, they were married. So Freeman. My mother was born in Nevis, Payne. The father from Montreal.
Right. We're gonna take some more calls, Mr. Henry, so wrap it up.
Who can cook. We so backward.
Yeah, Mr. Henry, we're gonna take some more calls, so wrap it up real quickly.
You know, so always resort to what does the law say, not what you say or what you think you say. And all who think they don't need to vaccinate, they go for you too. They go for you too. Many will not get up until the 1st of July. All right then.
Thank you, Miss Henry. We are just 4 minutes away from the hour. We're going to take one more call. I'm so sorry we couldn't get the calls in earlier because of that technical difficulty we experienced earlier. But we're going to take some more. We're going to take one more call, actually. It's just 4 minutes before the hour of 12 when we take the break for the headline news. But let us take one more call. The numbers to call are 466-0989. We have a caller. Let us take this call.
Morning. How you doing?
Caller, good morning. You're live.
Good morning. Okay. What happened? My little contribution today is that the Constitution spells out what is what, and the law says what is. The Constitution also gives the federal government to even, let's just do the St. Kitts for now, block off the infected area in St. Kitts. So if Navy, nothing happened to it, you don't even have to wait for the Premier to request it. The Prime Minister could have done that because the law gave him the authority. However, because Navy has someone to administer that by itself, that person, there's nothing wrong with the person make that request. You understand where I'm coming from? It's a constitutional right of that administration. It's a constitutional right of the federal government. If even it's just a section in Bastia is heavily infected than the rest of Bastia, they could seal off that section. That's what the law says, for public safety. Do you realize that? My friend?
I'm listening, yes.
Right. So we have to bear in mind, and as my good friend was saying before, the young lady there, some people think what I believe, but it's what is. The Constitution is. Even a law come into being and the law is not in line with the Constitution, it is null and void. The Constitution supersedes that law. Because, of course, there are laws that could be unconstitutional. So, let us take it from that point. It is the responsibility of whether it's the federal government or the Navy and administration to protect the persons under their authority. However, we have to bear in mind, we are where we are because of persons, as you say, everybody have a right to do whatever and not to do whatever. But there are consequences. Likewise, I have a right to be protected from somebody, and I have to call upon the government to do that if other persons don't do it. The persons are being... Now, the funny thing is, you know, see the DPP, if some persons believe that there's some persons who are a particular thing, let's say, you see the media here, and they believe the media helped contribute for this outbreak. Do you know that person could go to the DPP, and if the DPP find out, yes, we have a legitimate case, a lawsuit could come out, criminal damage? Do you know that? The Director of Public Prosecution is under the government realm, but it is not for the government to protect it. It's for the public. That is why it's named the Director of Public Prosecution. It's the public. Anybody from the public is still injured from anybody. They take it to the public, the Director of Public Prosecution. So that is why I'm saying we have to be careful what we're saying. Because, I mean, it is saying it's a news, but it is going to come when all these things... Look, you see what happened to Israel. Even though Benjamin Netanyahu was the sitting president, he was being tried by the police. You understand? By the DPP's office as well. He was investigated by the police. No holds barred. And I think this is what it needs in our country, to let the law be the law and the departments be the departments. Because not because you're government officials and no, the law is the law. So even if the government department do something wrong and they injure the public, the DPP can bring a change against that department. I'm just saying all of that to say this. What is happening now? It is some persons who refuse to follow simple guidelines for all of us. Remember, somebody might believe they're strong, but as somebody said, it's going to come. But you know what? Nobody knows who is going to catch. And who get it, they may not, there's no guarantee they're going to survive it. And that is why it is important for all of us to be protected. And one of the things to fight against it, mask, distancing, but of course if you get immunized to boost your immune system, that's another way. Whether you want to take AstraZeneca, Moderna, or whatever the fact is, we do not have those things. What we have, we should take. A bird in the hand was two in the bush. Ever heard that before?
A bird in the what? Sorry?
A bird in the hand was two in the bush. a pound of feather is more than an ounce of lead. You ever hear those kind of saying?
Yes.
Right. So what he's saying, what we have to use it. Don't wait until something comes because it may never come, but you may go before it reach. We don't say you're not US, but persons who are waiting for something else to come, it might pass off before that. So let us use what we have.
Right, caller. Let's wrap it up. We're at the end of the time, so we'll take some more calls after the break.
Well, I'm finished right here. Just want to say, everybody, keep God first because He is the only guarantor for everything, life and protection. You take care.
Right. Thank you so much for your contribution. You were listening to the first half of Voices on 1FM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Let me say good day, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to take this break for the headline news, and we're going to be back at 12:30 to continue this conversation. Let us take this break. We'll be back.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and Development Bank.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs. And make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International. By land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Everyone struggles at times. Even we too have our own struggles. Do you have a loan at the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis and have fallen behind on your payments because of financial difficulties? Have your financial situation changed? If your answer is yes, visit the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis or call 465-2288, extension 1101 or 469-5416 to make an appointment to discuss our debt evaluation and restructuring plan with one of our qualified officers. We are committed to working with you to make a sustained positive difference in your life.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Governor General Sir S.W. Tapley Seaton Tuesday declared a state of emergency in St. Kitts and Nevis effective Tuesday, June 15th until Saturday, June 26th. The declaration annulled, repealed, voided, or cancelled earlier regulations announced on Saturday, June 12th. In other words, the statutory rules and orders 21 of 2021 are replaced by the statutory rules and orders 24 of 2021. So what's different? Many of the same rules apply as it pertains to restriction of movement. However, there are some differences. No person shall visit a public beach on the island of St. Christopher except with the written permission of the Commissioner of Police and the suspension of all retail liquor licenses. The biggest difference observed in statutory rules and orders 24 is the separate regulations for the islands of St. Kitts and Nevis. Nevis has 1 active case of coronavirus, while St. Kitts has recorded 179 active cases, according to the Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hazel Laws. St. Kitts has recorded 229 confirmed cases since last year, while Nevis has recorded 15. Regulations for Nevis are: all businesses and offices can continue business operations by allowing remote work, or if employees can practice social distancing and physical distancing. Employees of public service, statutory bodies, and state-owned enterprises are to work from home unless otherwise instructed. The courts, Magistrates Court, and the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court shall remain accessible. Employees are to work remotely from home. Similarly to St. Kitts, no in-dining at restaurants, but food delivery and food takeaway services are allowed. All retail liquor licenses are suspended on Nevis. Similar to statutory rules and orders 21, a person may visit a public beach only for swimming or exercise. No picnics, beach parties, or other gatherings. Failure to comply with these regulations may result in an EC $5,000 fine, imprisonment up to 6 months, or both. The Governor General's declaration comes at a time when the country is tackling an outbreak of COVID-19, with 244 confirmed cases, 180 active cases, 64 recovered, and no death recorded. A state of emergency is a government declaration that, according to the Justice and Community Safety Directorate, may suspend certain normal functions of government, alert the community to the situation and request they alter their normal behaviors, order government agencies to implement emergency preparedness plans, and the suspension of certain civil liberties during periods of civil disorder. Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris announced emergency measures for the Federation Friday night, June 11th. Subsequently, the Attorney General appeared on ZIZ Saturday morning, June 12th, to explain those regulations. A National Emergency Operations Center briefing Saturday afternoon also discussed that matter, and then Saturday night, Premier Mark Brantley announced that all of the announced regulations would apply to Nevis. The sequence of events triggered widespread debate across the country about the government's handling of the COVID-19 outbreak. At that time, Nevis had recorded 14 confirmed cases of COVID-19, with the last case recorded in March 2021, while St. Kitts had recorded 110 cases in 3 weeks. Premier Mark Brantley on Wednesday, June 16th, faced a question on the issue from host Azim Bailey on WIN's weekday morning show, Island Tea.
I think the question for a lot of people was, why was there that seemingly, why was it not something that was announced initially by the Prime Minister? Is it that negotiations were still happening, decisions were still being made? Because those questions would have come up on Friday as well when he made his speech. So,
well, I think I would look at it this way, that this is an ongoing work. It's a work in progress. And anybody who tells you that they have all the answers at once is perhaps lying to you. The situation is evolving. COVID is a very fluid situation. I made my address, for example, on Saturday evening, speaking to the situation on the ground in Nevis. by Monday evening we had a case.
Right, exactly.
That's how fluid the situation is. So we can only respond to the evidence that's available to us and make decisions as leaders on the advice that we have at that time. And so you're absolutely correct. The Honorable Prime Minister would have spoken on Friday. The Honorable Attorney General came on Saturday morning, and he would have spoken. And I would have spoken to the situation on Nevis, being on the ground in Nevis, on Saturday evening. If you would realize that I think it was only yesterday we would have promulgated even further restrictions and the state of emergency, limited state of emergency was declared. And also, of course, we would have repealed and replaced the SRNO that was discussed by the Attorney General on Saturday. So here he was on Saturday morning discussing a set of regs, and by Tuesday, those had been repealed and replaced. So I said that only to say that while I appreciate some level of consternation in the public, we also have to appreciate that this is a fluid situation, and that as new and better evidence comes to light, we adjust. And that's why, my own address, even though I said at that point, Saturday evening, there were no cases in Nevis since March 16th, that we have to be prepared that if cases were to come, then additional actions would become necessary. So that really was what it was. Ideally, it would have been excellent had the Prime Minister on Friday said all that needed to be said. But the truth is that even by Saturday and Sunday, and again into Monday, the situation on the ground kept changing. So I anticipate that this will be something we'll have to live with, where we will see additional changes, maybe additional restrictions, or easing of those restrictions, as the case may be, as we move forward.
Representatives from the various political parties in St. Kitts and Nevis are of the view that there is access to education in the Twin Island nation, but made the call for more equality and equity for all. That view was uttered on WIN's Saturday, June 12th edition of Inside the News. St. Kitts and Nevis's Minister of Education, the Honorable General Powell, said as long as he is Minister of Education, all students seeking to earn higher education will be afforded the opportunity regardless of their political background.
None of students not having equal access or equity due to political reasons. Well, let me say this. I personally was affected by educationally due to political reasons when I went to UWI and the St. Kitts Nevis government at the time, back in 2001, I believe it was, refused to pay for my economic costs. And my parents had to do what they had to do to find that cost. And because of that experience, I vowed that I would never allow, as long as I had the power, that to happen to anybody else. And so, fast forward a few years, as I am now the Minister of Education, as far as I'm concerned, there's no rule for any sort of politicization within the sector.
The implementation of the Student Education Learning Fund, SELF, introduction of the one-to-one laptop program, construction of primary and secondary schools in the rural areas, introduction of the school's hot meals program, and the Ministry of Education's initiative of providing students with devices for easy online learning are some policies which Minister Powell dubbed as significant, introduced over the years in St. Kitts and Nevis to ensure that students have access to quality education. The Honorable Troy Liburd, Nevis's Junior Minister of Education and Chairman of the Concerned Citizens Movement, CCM, reinforced the statements made by Minister Powell, adding that the Nevis Island Administration has been making every effort to ensure that there is affordable and quality education offered to students on the island. Liburd noted that some changes are being made to the education sector plan.
To make our system here in the Federation as just as possible and as fair as possible, so that students would have, the opportunities to make themselves into the best that they could possibly be. Over the years, we have had many programs. We are currently on the back end of the education sector plan, which is a sector plan covering both St. Kitts and Nevis. And In preparing that sector plan, what they did was to identify the various gaps and the various disparities that were in the system, and then they came up with a plan and with measures that would make the education system more equitable across the board.
The Education Minister noted that the Nevis Island Administration, through its Department of Education, is actively involved in the training of staff at the early childhood centers, as well as teachers at the primary and secondary level. Senator the Honorable Dr. Joel Clark made mention of the programs introduced during the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party's time in office, the culmination of the Common Entrance program back in the 60s, the establishment of the Technical College, the National Workers Program in 1995, Project Strong in 1998, and the One Graduate Per Household policy were some of the initiatives taken by the Labour administration to ensure that there was equal and equitable access to education in St. Kitts and Nevis. A change in the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis is one of the ways to improve the equality of access to education to all, so noted Craig Tuckett, Director of Communications for the People's Labour Party PLP. Tuckett made reference to Article 27 of Guyana's Constitution, which states that every citizen has the right to a free education from nursery to university, as well as at non-formal places where opportunities are provided for education and training. Tuckett is of the opinion that the workforce can become more productive with increased access to education and training in areas such as information communication technology.
Area of making education both equal and equitable for our people. We are from different political parties, and I can say that each of the parties here that have had the opportunity to be in government at least one time has done at least one thing to help boost education. That I honestly believe that. But does it mean that there is equality or even equity in education?
Was the question raised by communications specialist and part-time educator Miss J.D. Keynes of the Nevis Reformation Party, one of the panelists on Wins Inside the News program. Ms. Keynes listed some factors that hinder the equity and equality in access to education in St. Kitts and Nevis, such as the challenges parents experience having to work multiple jobs, forcing older siblings to leave school to care for the younger ones.
Institutions that should be at the same level in our federation when it comes to subject offerings, for example. And so here on Nevis, we have students at, let's say, the Gingerland Secondary School, just drawing a reference. There are students at the Gingerland Secondary School who may be exposed to different subjects that students at the Charlestown Secondary School may not be exposed to. Yes, don't get me wrong, many of the subjects are the same. They have the same core subjects, etc. But all of the subject offerings aren't the same. So yes, whereas you get a high school education, you are restricted, but because you're restricted because of zoning, you cannot then choose to engage in certain subjects that may be offered at another institution. So that to me is not equality. Now, if I were to shift to equity, which is something that is more highly talked about, let's look at money. You know, it is not free to send children to school, whether public or private. And so, you know, you have to buy uniforms, you have to buy books, you have to buy other learning aids, all these things. And if we were to look at the situation that we are in now, you know, you need a laptop, you need a smartphone or some kind of tablet. You know, you need some sort of device. Not every child has all of the items that I've listed. And this is where the equity comes in. And, you know, it's probably because the parents simply do not have the money to purchase them. I agree that there are some parents who do not prioritize, and you know, we end up spending money on non-essentials rather than on our children's needs. But the reality is there are some parents who have to choose between buying food and buying a device. There are some parents who have to choose between paying rent and paying the electricity bill. And guess what? If the electricity bill is not paid, then where will you get internet access from in the case of Wi-Fi or even the actual cable? Looking at the home situation, so I'm with equity again. You know, parents need money, as I've mentioned before, to provide for their families. And so some of them end up working, some of us end up working long hours or even late hours or even multiple jobs.
Key points from Leadership Matters with Prime Minister the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris, June 15th, 2021. Key points by Prime Minister Harris. The federal government preferred if the state as a whole followed a similar policy regarding COVID-19 measures announced by Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris. The Nevis Island administration had indicated that having regard to the COVID-19 situation on Nevis, then with no community spread, it would have been difficult for them to pursue a similar lockdown like St. Kitts. Key points by Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hazel Laws. The Ministry of Health received positive results for 18 cases on Tuesday, June 15. 17 positive cases were identified on Monday, June 14. 13 positive cases were identified on Saturday, June 12, and 9 cases were identified on Sunday, June 13. St. Kitts and Nevis now has 244 confirmed cases of COVID-19, of which 64 have fully recovered and 180 active cases are being monitored. Since May 19, 2021, there have been 199 cases of the virus, with 198 added in St. Kitts and 1 for Nevis. There have been 13 COVID-19 hospital admissions, with 7 being discharged and 6 remaining in the hospital. Of these hospitalized cases, 2 are children. Dr. Hazel Laws dismissed the allegations that suggest she has resigned as Chief Medical Officer of St. Kitts and Nevis. She said, "I serve passionately. I am committed to my service. I want us to dismiss the fake news and misinformation that is in circulation. I am on the job and I am working, and it is quite obvious that I have not resigned." More than 5,595 people have been tested for COVID-19 in 4 weeks. The Ministry of Health has tested 11.4% of the entire population. Samples have been sent off to the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA. Lactating or breastfeeding women can take the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. People who have received the first dose of the vaccine are encouraged to take the second dose by visiting their nearest health center. Key points by Superintendent of Police Cromwell Henry. As of Tuesday, June 15th, 2021, 72% of the police force in St. Kitts and Nevis have received the AstraZeneca vaccine.
In this edition of the Caribbean News Roundup, St. Vincent and the Grenadines appears ready to impose the vaccine. Guyana's National Assembly approves a major relief package to address flooding and COVID-19. And other developments in Dominica, St. Lucia, Grenada, and Jamaica. The news coming right up. How common law can be used to impose vaccines. That's the argument being put forward by Vincentian Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. The Prime Minister has been offering reasons why those in the workplace should take the vaccine to protect themselves and others from COVID-19. Here is SVG TV News with what the head of government said about the matter.
Vaccines are not mandatory. However, legally, the common law with support from the statute laws can be used to impose vaccines at the workplace. This is according to Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, who said that it can happen both in the private and public sector. At a news conference today, the Prime Minister, who recently returned home from Cuba, was asked if persons can be terminated legally if they do not take the COVID-19 vaccines.
In relation to the public sector and the private sector, that you can impose the condition that if you don't take the vaccine, you may be terminated. In the case of the both public and private sectors, the employer has a right to have a safe place of work, including a healthy place for you to work, an environment for you to work. And this is recognized at the common law. There, statute law will bolster it, but the common law is there.
The Prime Minister said that the onus is also on the employees to cooperate with their employers to ensure the safety of the workplace.
You see, this thing works both ways. If an employee who is vaccinated says, though I'm vaccinated, I can still get COVID, though reduced chances, but I don't feel safe among persons who are not vaccinated in a close work environment. Because the science says, and the protocol says, that if you are all vaccinated, you can stay within a particular area, a certain number of you, without wearing a mask.
PM Gonzalez, however, noted that employers must be reasonable and put procedures in place for the termination to take effect.
The employer can inform the employees, listen to me, if you don't take this vaccine, we are going to, you may be terminated. But they have to be reasonable in terms of the notice. Like, for instance, the state as an employer, the central government. And the advice which we have received is that, and I read a lot too, you will give a reasonable notice period, say, listen, we're planning to have persons at this or that in this work environment vaccinated, and that we'd make the vaccine accessible to you. Whether it's a 2-week period, you get a 4-week period in which this is going to be done. And if you refuse to take it, to do the vaccine, it will be considered that this is an act of misconduct. An act of misconduct may lead to your dismissal.
It is his hope that the government does not have to take this route of terminating public servants for not taking the COVID-19 vaccine.
The Guyana National Assembly on Monday approved the passage of some $23 billion in funds, which will be used for a series of relief measures for the countrywide flood and COVID-19. The government has declared a disaster in the country in response to the flooding that had affected all regions since mid-May 2021. President Mohamed Fanali officially declared a disaster on the 10th of June. In a statement, he said heavy rainfall during May was likely to continue until late June and possibly mid-July. All regions of the country have been affected. The Guyana government said a total of 28,228 households were reportedly impacted by the current flood, with water entering homes, livestock and domestic animals in distress, farmlands inundated, resulting in crop damage. Meanwhile, weeks of flooding continues in neighboring Suriname, where over 10,000 people have been affected. Flooding has been impacting on Suriname since late April. In a June 15 report, the International Federation of Red Cross said all 10 districts of the country have reported flooding in most of their communities. Some 10,100 people from 2,020 families have been affected across Suriname. The trial of the fugitive businessman Mehul Choksi has been adjourned to June 25th due to a decline in his health condition, local media has been reporting. Choksi is wanted in India in the Punjab National Bank fraud case. On the 2nd of June, the 62-year-old diamantaire pleaded not guilty to illegal entry in Dominica. He has been charged with entering the island illegally on the 24th of May 2021 at Tukari Beach. The defense attorneys, bolstered by 2 additional local lawyers, presented to the court a medical document which stated that Choksi is incapacitated and as a result he was unable to attend the proceeding. The prosecution team also saw the addition of Harpreet Singh Giani, an Indian-born lawyer based in London, who said he appears as a consultant to the prosecution on the matter. The state's case is led by the acting director of public prosecutions, Shuma Dairampal. In St. Lucia, a call for a police officer who was involved in a fatal shooting to be sent on administrative leave. Here's an NBC Prime News report on the matter.
An April 9th argument between Lester Gastor, a Garrett Dennery farmer, and his neighbor devolved into a stone-throwing exchange between the two men. Police were summoned to the scene to quell the dispute, further degenerating it into a fatality. 42-year-old Gastor was on the receiving end of a police bullet to the neck area, dying on the spot. The alleged shooter, a police sergeant. But there is complexity to this police shooting. According to media reports, the other individual involved in the altercation with the deceased farmer was related to the police sergeant. I spoke with attorney Mary Francis Friday, June 11th, 2 months since the fatal shooting. The coordinator for the Center for Legal Aid and Human Rights says since the news broke, she has been quite concerned about the facts of the situation.
If your family members are involved in the situation, you should have another police officer actually dealing with the situation, especially in the Daniel Miko area. I've had cases in the past of police officers actually intervening on behalf of their family members and trying to say they are quelling situations, and this to the disadvantage of another party.
Now, what has sparked some public outrage as well is that the shooter, the police sergeant, 2 months later remains on active duty, even making an appearance recently on United Workers' Party media. Newly minted Deputy Commissioner Wayne Shari confirmed to NBC Prime this week.
The incident is being investigated. The officer is not suspended.
Shari also disclosed that the matter is being investigated by the Major Crimes Unit. Police investigating police, a sore point for the St. Lucian populace for decades. And Mary Francis, who has repeatedly called for independent investigators, the attorney says the seriousness of the situation warrants swift action, independent investigation, and prosecution if needs be.
Grenada is continuing to keep a close watch on people from neighboring islands attempting to enter the country illegally. 2 Vincentians are before the court since St. George's for that kind of trespassing, reports GBN News.
2 Vincentian nationals who were arrested and charged on Saturday the 12th of June for entering the state of Grenada without the consent of an immigration officer and failure to submit to a government-approved quarantine facility were brought to court on Monday. Laverna and Leslie John were ordered to be removed by the presiding magistrate on the first charge and reprimanded and discharged on the second charge. The 2, according to reports, are siblings. Both individuals arrived on island via speedboat last Thursday at Victoria St. Mark and were subsequently detained by immigration authorities. During last week's press briefing, Minister for Health Nicholas Steele said Grenada continues to see a growth in the number of persons entering the country illegally, a risky practice that he said can result in a massive COVID-19 outbreak.
We are constantly at threat. Individuals are constantly trying to circumnavigate and get around the various restrictions that we put in place to keep us safe and them safe. But still, some individuals try to breach it or believe that they are above it. So we are constantly at risk. Someone successfully came into Grenada illegally from a country where there is right now a significant outbreak of COVID-19.
There is no set date as to when the 2 will be sent back to St. Vincent. To date, the number of illegal entries into Grenada has increased to 17. Cherry and Blackman Stephen, GBN News.
An electoral reform dialogue involving Dominica's business sector that was postponed last month is now going ahead on Thursday. That's one of the news items state-owned DBS Radio reported on Tuesday evening.
The sole commissioner engaged by government to advance Dominica's electoral reform, Sir Dennis Byron, has highlighted an upcoming consultation with the private sector as an opportunity to listen to their views on the island's electoral process. The consultation, organized by the Dominica Business Forum, will be held virtually this Thursday for the private sector and civil society organizations. In an interview with DBS News, Sir Byron emphasized the objectives of the activity.
I'm still at the stage of information gathering, and the Dominica Business Forum is one of a few organizations who requested the opportunity to pilot a consultation process. Their objective in this particular consultation is to allow members of the organization, people whom they are associated with, an opportunity to put forward opinions and to make recommendations. So this is an opportunity for me to hear firsthand the views of responsible people within the community on what they would like to see result from the work I am doing. So it will be an opportunity for me to get more information on the expectations of the community from this process. It's not really an opportunity where I am going to be the key speaker. I will be listening to the views of the Dominica Business Forum.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. Summit talks continue in Switzerland between President Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin. NPR's Connor Donovan reports from Geneva.
The two men are meeting for the first time as presidents. They met 10 years ago when Biden visited Moscow as vice president and Putin was prime minister. That was part of the Obama administration's attempted reset with Russia. The effort fell apart in 2014 when Russia invaded Ukraine and annexed Crimea. Russian aggression toward its neighbors will be on the agenda this time around. So will cyber attacks and Russia's detention of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. U.S.-Russian relations are frosty at the moment. Both countries' ambassadors have been pulled home. Biden says he hopes to find areas such as climate change where the two countries can cooperate. Each leader will address the press separately after the event. Connor Donovan, NPR News, Geneva.
Vice President Harris and congressional Democrats will meet with a group of Texas Democratic lawmakers today in Washington. NPR's Windsor Johnston reports the state lawmakers are expected to press for action on federal voting rights legislation.
The lawmakers will sit down with Vice President Harris and top congressional Democrats to discuss ways to advance legislation in the Senate that would expand voting rights. The measure has failed to gain the support of Republicans and from some moderate Democrats. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says far too many states have passed laws with restrictive voting provisions.
This is an all-out assault. It's just really hard to understand how they could cook up so many various ways to come at a person's right to vote, but they did.
Today's meeting comes nearly 3 weeks after Texas Democrats staged a walkout on the State House floor to block a bill that would have made it more difficult to vote in the state. Windsor Johnston, NPR News.
That was the WinFM Headline News. The WinFM Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, and Development Bank.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Everyone struggles at times. Even we too have our own struggles. Do you have a loan at the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis and have fallen behind on your payments because of financial difficulties? Have your financial situation changed? If your answer is yes, visit the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis or call 465-2288, extension 1101 or 469-5416 to make an appointment to discuss our debt evaluation and restructuring plan with one of our qualified officers. We are committed to working with you to make a sustained positive difference in your life.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International. By land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, DeLeo Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
It's the big
Daddy!
3-day weekend sale at Horsford's. This Father's Day weekend, Thursday, June 17th to Saturday, June 20th, Horsford's Building and Nevis Centers will be celebrating.
Daddy!
Yes! It's a 25% off store-wide for 3 days only as we celebrate.
Daddy!
At Horsford's Building Center and Nevis Center. Yes! It's Horsford's Building Centers.
Daddy!
Father's Day weekend sale. 25% off store-wide just for...
Daddy!
And that's not all. On Saturday, 20th June, it's the Just for Dads Health Fair with free health screening for all.
Daddy!
It's Horsford's Building Centers 3-day
Daddy!
Father's Day weekend sale. Thursday, June 17th to Saturday, June 20th at the Horsford's Building and Nevis Centers on Wellington Road, St. Kitts and Stony Grove, Nevis. Don't miss it. Terms and conditions apply.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9 Win FM.
Run to Horsford's Furniture and Appliances in Ashley Furniture Home Store now and get a chance to win free groceries for 1 year. By popular demand, Cashback is back, but this time Cashback is back with more quality appliances, more great prices and fantastic deals, more of Horsford's fabulous FlexPay payment plan, and more free groceries. A whole year of free groceries. Come to Horsford's Furniture and Appliances in Ashley Furniture Home Store today and get absolutely free groceries with every hire purchase and a chance to win free groceries for 1 year. Great deals on furniture and appliances. Get cash back for free groceries with FlexPay hire purchase and a chance to win free groceries for 1 year with every $500 spent. All great reasons to shop at Horsford's Furniture and Appliances in Ashley Furniture Home Store this coupon season. Terms and conditions apply. See stores for details.
Welcome back to Inside the News on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host, Devon Cornelius. Good afternoon to all of you who are listening via the radio, those of you who are joining via social media, of course, those of you via our website at www.winmediaskn.com. Good afternoon and welcome back to Voices. It's a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. I'm giving thanks for life. I'm so happy to be alive, and I hope you are too. Now, we had a very interesting discussion this morning. I'm so sorry we weren't able to take calls earlier as we were experiencing some technical difficulties. But very interesting discussion we had this morning, and I would like to continue that conversation to allow you to call in later. We're going to open the phone lines at 1 o'clock. The phone lines will open promptly at 1, so the numbers to call 466-0989-762 and 662. Call us and be a part of this discussion. And so over the past few days, even today, now it has been very interesting, looking at the comments being made by our Kitishan and Nevision brothers and sisters, listening to the speeches made by Prime Minister Dr. Harris and Premier Mark Brantley. It has been very interesting, and a lot of legal opinion and constitutional lawyers have come up to argue whether what the Premier said was legal or had any legal backing or any footing. There was some reference to what the Premier said. Some people were saying, well, this was just a speech by the Premier. Yes, while the Constitution allows the Premier or gives the Premier the power to make general directions with regards to health and education and those matters, those measures were not backed by the statutory rules and orders. And so people were looking at it from a legal standpoint. However, for me, it was the chatter I saw on social media from both Kitishans and Nevisians. And there were some Kitishans that were of the opinion that Nevis should not have or does not have any power whatsoever to make decisions for themselves, which is as a caller put it, bare ignorance. It is ignorance to think that there is a Nevis Island administration, and according to our constitution, that administration has certain powers to make certain general directions and certain laws that may be styled as ordinances. And so while people can have their own opinion, which is fine, sometimes we gotta understand what we're saying first, or know what you're saying first before you say it. And so for me to facilitate this discussion, I said, let me go and see what the Constitution says. Let me go and see what the Constitution says. And whatever the Constitution says, I am going to go based on what it says. And so the phone lines will open in the next 10 minutes. And I'm anticipating and looking forward to hearing from you and what you have to add. Now, the Governor General declared rather a state of emergency. And I want to use this time quickly to just provide some clarity, or to rather explain the state of emergency to the best way that I can. Now, Governor General, he explained, or he declared a state of emergency in St. Kitts and Nevis, which takes effect from yesterday, June 15, and will run until Saturday, June 26. Now, that declaration cancelled earlier regulations announced on June 12th. In other words, the statutory rules and orders, SRO 21 of 2021, are replaced by statutory rules and orders 24 of 2021. So what's different? Many of the same rules apply as it pertains to restriction of movement. However, there are some differences. No person shall visit a public beach on the island of St. Christopher except with the written permission of the Commissioner of Police and the suspension of all retail and liquor licenses. The biggest difference observed in SRO 24 is the separate regulations for the islands of St. Kitts and Nevis. Nevis has one active case of the coronavirus disease, while St. Kitts has recorded 179 active cases, according to the CMO. St. Kitts has recorded 229 confirmed cases since last year, while Nevis has recorded 15. The regulations for Nevis are: all businesses and offices can continue business operations by allowing remote work, or if its employees can practice social distancing and physical distancing. Employees of public service, that is public servants, statutory bodies, and state-owned enterprises are to work from home unless otherwise instructed. The courts, such as the Magistrates Court and the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, shall remain accessible once employees are to work remotely from home. Similarly to St. Kitts, no in-dining at restaurants, but food delivery or food takeaway services are allowed, of course. All retail liquor licenses are suspended in Nevis. And similar to SRO 21, any person may visit a public beach only for swimming or exercise. Of course, no picnics, beach parties, or other gatherings. Failure to comply with these regulations may result in an EC, $5,000 fine, imprisonment of up to six months, or both. The Governor General's declaration comes at a time when the country is tackling, of course, this outbreak of COVID-19, which many of us thought would come. Some thought that it would have never happened. And it is rather unfortunate. Now, a state of emergency is a government declaration that, according to the Justice and Community Safety Directorate, may suspend certain normal functions of the government, alert the community to the situation, and request they alter their normal behaviors, order government agencies to implement emergency preparedness plans, and suspend civil or certain civil liberties during periods of civil disorder. So I just want us to understand what the state of emergency is about. If you want to seek more information, you can visit our website at www.winmediaskn.com for more information, and you can read upon the state of emergency there and the other protocols and measures that have been taken by the federal government and the Nevis Island administration. Very, very interesting times ahead, and as I have done and will continue to do, I want to really encourage people to, really do what they have to do to keep themselves safe, and understand that, this is really a personal responsibility. And people ought not to be ignorant. People ought not to be ignorant. I know that there are some people that genuinely would not understand right away. There are some people that do not understand right away. But there are some people that hear, they understand, but then they refuse to listen. They refuse to follow the protocols. They really, really refuse to follow the protocols. And when you do that, in my opinion, you jeopardize the health of others. That is my opinion. Of course, someone else would have a different opinion, but that is my opinion. We're going to open the phone lines at 1 o'clock. And we're going to welcome your calls. Again, the numbers to call are 466-0989, 762 and 662. Call us and be a part of this discussion. If there is an issue that you would like to raise, you are free to do so. Of course, once remaining respectful, you are free to do so. We welcome your calls. You're listening to Voices on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Again, I want to say thank you to all of you who are listening, whether it be via the radio, by whatever means you're listening, website, social media, the radio. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Voices. Today is the 16th day of June, 2021. And, you know, this time last year, we were under tighter restrictions because at that time, the pandemic was new to us. It's very new to us. We were still trying to, you know, understand what it is we're dealing with here. I think now people have a better understanding of the pandemic. Some don't, but some do. They do have a better understanding. Of course, I've said before, there's some other people that wish to remain ignorant. If we have any callers at this time, we're going to take the calls. It's just 2 minutes before the hour of 1. So if you have any callers at this time, you can call us and be a part of the discussion. 466-0989, 762 and 662. We have a first call. Let us take this caller.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Dr. Drew. I want to thank
Good
you
afternoon,
for
Dr. Drew.
taking my call. Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing fine. And you?
I'm well. Thank you very much. And I'm asking you to stay safe, and all of the listeners who are listening, I want them to stay safe also, and good afternoon to them as well and to the staff there at WinFM. I just want to state very quickly that the state of emergency that we are now seeing in effect, I think that the way it was done really shows that we have dictatorship to some extent in this country. I think, and it is best practice, and it is a democratic thing to do, that when you are going to suspend people's constitutional rights, as this is going to do to some extent, that the Prime Minister must come before the country, say to the country what will be done, and justify it. It cannot be done dead of night that you just see some paper with some writings on it. It is not done like that. The Prime Minister cannot operate like that. The country is not his personal business. It is not his home. The Prime Minister must follow democratic rules and best practice. In dictatorships and totalitarian governments, you suspend people's rights without even telling them. And therefore, I am saying to the Prime Minister that he needs to come before the country and to say to the country that your rights, some of your constitutional rights, will be suspended, and this is the reason why they will be suspended. This way of bringing it out, saying it on some partisan show, is not the way to suspend people's rights. In other countries, people don't take this as lightly as we're taking it here. Our constitutional rights, when they're being suspended, it must be done properly. And today, my rights are suspended, and I have not heard an address from the Prime Minister to the nation to justify what he's doing. I'm not saying what action has to be taken. I'm discussing how it is being done, and this is not the way. So I want to call out the Prime Minister on that, and this again is another act of dictatorial rule. I want to also quickly speak about what is taking place with coronavirus. The virus is everywhere. The government has lost control. I said that last week. Why? Because A person came in, the protocols were violated when he came in, a person got infected, and the infection has spread through the community. This has very little to do with who is vaccinated and who is not vaccinated, because people who are vaccinated and unvaccinated both will get infected. That was a serious violation with respect to the different protocols. The government must be held responsible for that, and nobody else should be blamed. The same way the government alone wanted to take credit when there were no cases. Now that we have a widespread of coronavirus, the government also must take responsibility for this. So the reason why I'm saying it is everywhere is that I know it's everywhere. People are now detected with coronavirus, and they're not taken to any facility. They are in their homes, and they're infecting their whole household. There are homes where people are infecting their whole household. They're not taking out the sick ones. So that is why I say the government has lost control. Additionally, with the tracing, and the health workers are doing their very best, but they're tired, they're burnt out, they need help. And to some extent, to a great extent in some areas, the tracing is not really going to completion. That is another fact that the government has lost control. And so I want to say that there is no all-society approach, because the Prime Minister has refused to call the leader of the opposition, to sit with the leader of the opposition, to show the country that this is not a political issue, but that we are united to deal with the COVID-19 virus. And he has refused to do that. And therefore, his song and dance about whole society approach, that I do not subscribe to. Additionally, the Prime Minister has not allowed the medical association, the Medical and Dental Association. This association has almost all the doctors in the federation, people of different expertise, skills, and they are not being called as an association to help with the scientific approach to deal with the COVID-19. And that again shows me that the Prime Minister and the government are playing politics with the issue of COVID-19, that even the Association of Doctors is being called to take part. And that is why I say that the government does not have an all-society approach. So I want to wrap up finally and say that I have offered my help from the beginning. I have been bashed. My name has been dragged through the mud with all sorts of nasty things, all of which has been shown to be lies and innuendos and were just used for political purposes. I am still available. The Doctors Association is still available. I am saying to the Prime Minister, the leader of the opposition is still available. This is out of control. People are getting sick. The country is in a state of emergency. Businesses are shut down. People are hurting. Where is the compassion? Drop the politics and bring the whole of society together so that we can deal with it. That is the only solution. And when people come together, solution would be sought, and people and the country would get out of this sooner and in a better way. And so I want to say that the Prime Minister needs to show leadership and to bring everybody on board so that this can finally be dealt with. And with the SOE, he still needs to tell the country in a proper way that their rights have been suspended and that this would be up to a certain point and the reason why their rights would have been suspended. And to settle those, I want to encourage you from a medical standpoint, get sunlight. Sunlight helps with vitamin D and helps to kill the virus. Don't be afraid of the sun. Get some sunlight every day. Take vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc. Drink lots of fluid, especially warm fluid that can help to break up any mucus. Wear your mask, sanitize, do all of that, and have a discussion with your healthcare provider about you taking the vaccine. I don't know people's health history and who is viable or who is not, but have that conversation also to do that. I want to say that I have never been against vaccination. As I said on your show, that I support the science of vaccination. So when people are properly educated, there's no need to force people. In the United States, Europe, which are great democracies, they're not forcing anybody, but they're getting the job done. We can do the same thing here. Let us not think that we have to violate people's human rights in order to get the vaccine, if that is the objective. We need to sit with people, educate people, work with people, offer choice to people so that we can maintain our democratic principles while we fight against the the best way to do this, and I say again, the best way to have an all-society approach, and I call on the Prime Minister, we need an all-society approach. That was the comment I wanted to make today to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, so that we can have a clearer understanding of where we stand, or where I stand.
Right. Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Drew, for your comment. And I always look forward to your comment and participation. Of course, there is an open invitation. You can always come back and share other opinions you may have and share your piece here on Voices. Thank you so much, Dr. Drew, for your call. You're listening to Voices on 1FM 98.9. We are still taking calls here. That was Dr. Terence Drew, chairman of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, giving his take on the stance taken by the government with the state of emergency. When this state of emergency, we have another caller on the line. Let us take this call.
Yes. Good day, Mr. Cornelius.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Awesome. Just a bit confused, shall I say, by all the happenings over the weekend. Because what I gleaned initially from the speeches was there seemed to be some kind of cat and mouse game being played. Okay, just the thing we don't want during a pandemic. Right? I mean, people's eyebrows were raised after listening to the two speeches on the weekend, the ones by the Prime Minister and Premier Brantley. Okay, both the leaders of both islands seem to be working at cross purposes. Right, and the government just seemed dysfunctional. Right, this is no time, I think, to be looking at the Constitution. I know most people started looking at the constitutional issues, you know, but trying to figure out the intent of the Constitution and the legalities, I think, is inappropriate at this time. Okay, because from Vance Amory to Harris to Brantley, all of the leaders have been using the Constitution as an instrument of convenience, not one for guidance, right? They often pay lip service to it, and it does need revisiting, just not now, not just at this moment. Okay, this is no time to be dissecting the Constitution. I would expect that both leaders would be thoroughly focused on doing what they think is the best thing for their respective islands. Right? The situation in both islands were different, and so why should the approach be the same for both? Okay? Right now, any discussion on the Constitution is academic because there is a clear and present danger that we are undergoing right now. Okay, and that must be faced by both leaders. But fortunately, I think I noticed that both men seem to walk back their speeches since. The Prime Minister, I think, backed down a bit. We noticed that the SNR or SRNOs, or how is it? The statutory rules and orders.
Orders, right. Yes.
Yeah. Those have now recognized that Nevis is a separate entity and that it was in a different position. Okay, so you notice that they mentioned the difference now. So I think that was a concession to Brantley. And I think Premier Brantley this morning, and in your newscast, I think you played bits of it, he also walked back from the brink by saying basically the situation is fluid, and that when he spoke first, he took into account the position of Nevis then, and that position obviously changed once it was announced that there was a case in Nevis as well, and so the fact is the situation is fluid. I think he used that to basically walked back what sounded very much like him standing up to the Prime Minister initially. I don't like, though, the feeling I got this morning, just waking up to an announcement of a state of emergency.
State of emergency, yeah. Many people had that feeling as well.
Yeah, because the Prime Minister was on last night. What changed between then and now? Do you really think that the Prime Minister didn't know then that there would be a state of emergency declared today? Actually, it was declared.
And you know, if I may add, Carla, not to cut you off, I was listening to Leadership Matters last night. Matter of fact, I listened to the entire program. And when I got up this morning, I too saw that there was a state of emergency declared. And I must be honest, I was a bit confused because I know that was not made mention of during Leadership Matters last night. So I must be honest with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it gives the impression that they are stage managing the response to COVID as opposed to managing it. Okay, and that's not good for trust, you know, because people are gonna start second guessing your motives, second guessing what you put out there. Okay, wondering if there was an agenda behind what is being said. All right. In the first place, I think they should have separated the politics from the professional response of the professionals. Okay, because when the two mix, you know, you cause distrust and confusion, right? And you work at different agendas. All right, and so it's unfortunate that this continues. I mean, in my opinion, COVID was politicized from the start. It's always interesting to hear people. Everybody is saying COVID should not be politicized. And then they launch into politicizing it. Even last night, I don't think I ever recall the opposition saying that, discouraging people from taking the vaccine, saying that people shouldn't take the vaccine. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I never ever heard them say that. All right, they were against forced vaccination. I think that's the position of the opposition in Nevis as well. They were against forced.
I think what the issue was the, you know, there are some people that for example, there are known Labour supporters or known NRP supporters that would say, okay, don't take the vaccine, and so people would take it as it coming from the party. I disagree. Yeah. If the party leader, whether it be for the Labour Party or the NRP, does not say such, then from an official standpoint, you shouldn't take it as that, because remember, people are in their own opinion.
Exactly, but because and that's the whole point. Right, because the Prime Minister want to pin this thing on the opposition. He comes straight out and say, make it seem as if the opposition is telling people not to take the vaccine, when nothing is further from the truth, and when that is in fact politicizing the whole thing. Right, the true test, I think, the ultimate test of a leader is if that leader can unite a country in a crisis. That is a true test of a leader. Okay? And if you can't do that, then you have failed. And doing things like this, right, saying all of society approach and we should unite, and then proceed like he did at the end, to blame and try to scapegoat the opposition is not helping. That does not help, okay? maybe he can't help himself. That's just how the Prime Minister is. He thrives on divisive, confrontational politics. And so, he's been around in politics long. It has served him well. And so he's unlikely to change now. But someone of his advisors or someone of the younger folks in the cabinet should tell him, listen, it's time you stop this. Okay? You want to unite the country? This is not the way to do it. All right? You don't throw arrows at the opposition and then tell them, come, join me. We want an all-of-society approach. Nobody's suicidal. Okay? And so,
right,
it was
just
disappointing.
wrap it up quickly. We have some other callers.
Yeah. So that part was disappointing. But I do think that, we definitely need to do things a little differently to get things right. Because right now, it is clear that we're in a crisis and something has to give. Okay? All right.
Right. Thank you so much, caller, for your contribution. We are still taking calls here on 1FM's Voices. Today is Wednesday, June 16, 2021. The numbers to call are 466-0989-762 and 662. Call us today and be a part of this discussion. Very interesting conversation we're having now, and the phone lines are still open. We have another call on the line. Let us take this call.
Good evening to you, and greetings in the name of Jesus Christ, the only Savior of sinners from head and from sin, and the second eternal person of the eternal Trinity. Now, first of all, I would like to say, a lot of what we are hearing, first of all, the Bible speaks about the duties and limits of government. And the limits and duties placed on government by God is that government should punish evildoers according to the Bible and praise those who do good according to the Bible and pick up the taxes to perform such duties. Anything beyond those things is sinful in God's eyes, because the Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 6, do not go beyond what is written. That is in the Bible. Don't go beyond it, because once you're going beyond what is written in the Bible, you are sinning. So because all of these lockdowns, because all of these states of emergencies, because of all of these enforced social distancing, that's all stuff by government, these things are going beyond the Bible, duties for government, God's duties for government, and therefore in God's eyes, based on the Bible, they are sinful, and therefore they are wrong and should be repented of. And everything that goes against the Bible is the way of death and the way of God's judgment upon us when we go against the Bible, no matter how small that sin is. So I
right,
just want
to get to the point. We have some other callers on the line.
Yeah, that is basically my point, is that we should get in line with the Bible and do what the Bible says and do not go beyond what the Bible says, as we are doing and have been doing for the longest a while, from ever since. Because to go against the Bible is the way of death and is sinful in God's eyes, and to be punished, and will be punished by God in his judgment upon us for our disobedience. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, caller, for your contribution. We're still taking calls here on 1FM's Voices. Call us today and be a part of the discussion. The number to call is 466-0989-762 and 662. We are still taking your calls. I'm going to take calls right up until we're ready to leave. Yes, I'm going to take your calls. I'm going to try to get in as much calls as possible. So please, when you call, stick straight to the point, get straight to the point. And if you have a question, pose a question. And of course, I'll try my best to answer that question. If I can't answer that question, of course, I'll tell you that I'm not in a position to answer that question. But nevertheless, I take your calls, 466-0989-762 and 662. Call us and be a part of this discussion. We have another caller. I think we have another caller on the line. Let us take this call. Okay, we have no calls at this time. You're listening to Voices. So, yes, it has been some very interesting. It has been very interesting over the past few days. A very good observation made by the caller before me, before the caller there that went, sorry, in regards to the state of emergency. We have a caller. Let's take this caller. Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. Yes, so I was listening to Leadership Matters last night. Okay, the caller is back. Let us take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're live on Voices.
Good afternoon, Devon. Good
Good
afternoon,
afternoon.
Greg. My brother Greg. Now, I listened to Dr. Drew and Mr. McMahon. Quite interesting. Now, Dr. Drew seemed to be more concerned about Dr. Douglas's stature. On Saturday, it was revealed when you had the young people there that the Labour Party had nominated two persons. You remember that?
Had nominated what, sorry?
Two persons. They said Gian and somebody else. When
To
they
do
had
what?
the consultation. You don't recall it?
No, enlighten me. Are we on the same page? What are we talking about
Somebody
here?
talk about not being consulted. I think it was Miss Clark. And then it was revealed that Gian and another one were nominated by the Labour Party when they had the consultation. But
Oh, okay, yes, okay. Yes.
remember
okay.
now, right?
Yes, yes.
So this gives rise to the claim that they have not been consulted. And Dr. Drew, God bless you. That Medical and Dental Association, most, if not all of them, were educated at government expense, just like me. Where when Cuba went at government expense, because government got the scholarship. If they went to UWI, they paid 80%. Nobody's supposed to have to beg no doctor or no lawyer in a time of crisis to do something. It doesn't speak well. They ought to hold their head in shame. They have the information, and we didn't consult them. Well, the same way they climb the government step to go to Cuba or wherever. Nobody in this country is supposed to have to beg them. They're supposed to step up. And another thing again, Dr. Joe is lobbying. Labour Party is going to have the leadership thing in November. All that he's doing is posturing so that he can be chosen. He could challenge me about it. Step up. And they have not definitively said, take the vaccine. They go all around the bush and come back. And their people, many of them who are loyal supporters, have not gone to vaccinate because they're not too sure if they're offending them. Even though he cannot bring himself to say, take the vaccine. Take it until when the other one comes. Until then, Corona don't even fit jail. Corona gone jail, Corona gone in every people's house. He has got to learn. You see, he carrying on the old line of labor. How can you have New Gen SKN with the same kind of tactics? The Labour Party must change. It must transform itself. Right now, Dr. Drew is an image of Dr. Douglas. That is why they're in the position they're in now, so I would advise him. Break away from that thing. If you want to be the leader, you must be more transformative. Not the same old story, labor and Pam and labor. Dr. Harris spent his years, whatever he learned in the Labour Party. Whatever method he learned, whatever thing he know, he was in there 18 years. In high position, he was actually tagged, like how Dr. Drew tagged for the leader. Dr. Harris was tagged to take over from Dr. Douglas when Dr. Douglas refused to step down. So, Doctor, you should know that when the time comes to vote, he may not get the position because he gone back down. So I want to encourage, you have potential, but you cannot come in the old labor way. It's not going to work. And
right. We want to take some other calls, so wrap it up quickly, Ms. Henry.
Again, it is disloyal to the country for you to sit back and wait to be asked when the country finances your education. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your contribution. We are still taking calls. We have, do we have any more callers on the line? Okay, we're gonna take some more calls. 466-098-9762. We have no callers. We're gonna try to slip in at least two more calls. Okay, we have a caller on the line. Let us take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're live on Voices.
Good afternoon. I'll tell you what. Politics will be the death of us because we can't keep politics out of COVID, as that last caller just proved. Well, I have a question for you. Our Parliament passed, I can't remember the exact name, but it was a COVID Act. And numerous restrictions were placed under that auspices when we were not under a state of emergency. My question is, are there any of the restrictions that we're placed under now that couldn't have been done under the auspices of that act rather than implementing a state of emergency? Because I think that act gave tremendous power to the COVID task force and the cabinet to place restrictions on the general public. And in fact, all of the restrictions prior to the state of emergency were placed on the country, on the general public, under that act. So I'm just questioning whether it was necessary to have a state of emergency or not.
Oh, we lost that caller. Okay, thank you, caller, for your contribution. Let me just go back to see what you said. We're not going to take any more calls. We're just 2 minutes before the end time, so we're going to not take any more calls. But that is a good question put forward by the caller. Just making sure I understand exactly what you said. But you're saying some of the measures that we're seeing now under the state of emergency, are you saying, I take it to say that you're saying these measures could have or should have been implemented under the previous SROs? If that is what you're saying, then that is something I think could have been possible versus putting in place a state of emergency. And as a caller said before, as I said, I was listening to Leadership Matters last night, and no reference was made to a state of emergency. And present was the Prime Minister, present was the Superintendent of Police, and anyone can correct me, I stand to be corrected, but I did not hear any reference being made to a state of emergency. Only to wake up this morning, this blessed Wednesday morning, to hear that we are now under a state of emergency. I think what stood out for me as well is that there is a special part there for Nevis now. So government offices on Nevis, as I've said before, they are still allowed to continue operations by allowing remote work, or if employees can practice social distancing and physical distancing. So essentially government offices in Nevis are still open. As long as employees can practice social distancing, physical distancing, of course, that is if your office has enough space, then these places can still remain open. A very interesting observation was made by a caller previous that, well, Nevis only has one reported active case. I have to add reported because I don't know what other cases are out there. I'm going to be as realistic as possible. Because before I wrap up, I want to say, now, on St. Kitts, we have about 179 active cases of the virus reported last evening, right? Do we really think, did we really think that with so many active cases on St. Kitts, Nevis would not have gotten any cases? Considering that there is frequent movement between both islands. People go back and forth every day, whether it is essential or non-essential. And so the ridiculous argument that I heard from people on Nevis saying that, oh, we have no COVID and we're safe and we could do this and we could do that, it was ignorance, in my opinion. And because of that, many people let their guards down. Many people did not continue to follow the protocols. and people just began doing their own thing. And that is unfortunate. And so, I don't know how we could possibly think that with all the cases on St. Kitts, Nevis can't get any cases. If you are on Nevis, if you are a Nevision, if you reside on the island of Nevis, please, for God's sake, follow the protocols. I can't force you to take the vaccine. I can't make you go and take the vaccine, but I think you would consider wearing a face mask. Because wearing a face mask and taking an injection is different. It's two different ball games there. So I think you would consider wearing a face mask. I think you would consider washing your hands, right? So please, I'm begging all you, please. Do what you have to do to protect yourself and your family. It is 1 minute past the hour of 1:30, it's 1:31. I am going to end this program now. And I want to say thank you again to all of you who joined us. Thank you for all the callers. I had quite a number of calls today, regardless of the inconvenience we had earlier. And I'm going to be back on Friday. Going to be back on Friday with another edition of Voices, God's Spare Life. Let me say thank you to all of you for joining. And stay tuned to WinFM 98.9. It's a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. The sun is shining in all its glory. For those of you who are wondering, I'm in Nevis. I am in Nevis, so I'm hosting virtually. That is the power of technology. I am hosting this program from the comfort of my living room. And so I'm still connected with you, my people on St. Kitts. I'm still connected with you. But stay tuned to WinFM 98.9. And thank you guys so much. Have a beautiful Wednesday and stay safe. Remember to wear your mask, wash your hands, and do what you have to do to keep yourself safe. Until next time, this was Voices on WinFM 98.9. I am Devon Cornelius. Stay safe. Have a good one.
Here are your Horsford's Value Mart IGA Value Club Blue Tag specials. For